Hi, my name is Ty Lamb, and I have had some questions about growing wheatgrass, and I have done it over the years. And I think maybe I can help some people get started, answer some questions, and maybe help you avoid some mistakes that may discourage you from doing wheatgrass. So let's begin. First of all, we'll talk about the wheat berries themselves. And make sure that you have found a source, probably online or a local store, where you can find hard red wheat that is non-GMO and organic. Of course, that's important when you're going to be doing this. And so there are sources online, and you should pay in a bulk rate somewhere between, I'm guessing, $2.50 to $3.50 a pound. The thing that you want to avoid is the small packages that are on the store shelves that say sprouting seed, because there you're going to pay anywhere from 90 cents to $1 an ounce. And so that is not cost effective whatsoever, especially concerning the volume of wheatgrass seed or wheat seed that you're going to be using on a regular basis. And so it pays, once you have a supplier in mind and the price is about right, then you can buy a large volume to have on hand. So one of the things to consider is a mistake that I made, and I took a scoop out of my bag over here. I bought a 50-pound sack, and it's a little bit risky when you're trying to find your supplier, but what you find is the older the seed is, the less the germination rate is, and so you want to be careful about that. And it's hard to know sometimes, and so you can trial and error and find a supplier that you know is got a good germination rate, because remember, we're producing grass, and so this seed has got to germinate. Now, if I were making bread and grinding this up to be used that way, it wouldn't matter if I had a germ rate or not. So the thing to consider also, for those of you who may have long-term food storage, and you have a 5-gallon can or bucket of wheat, whole wheat, that you would like to maybe try this with, well, make sure that that wheat has not been stored or packed with nitrogen, because it will not sprout. Nitrogen is great for keeping insects and that type of thing out, but the nitrogen will kill the germ, and so you will have dead seed. And so what I do is I take my wheat, and I'll take about 3 cups and put into my wife's sprouting jar. And a sprouting jar is just a jar that has a screen lid on it. And I'll soak the seed overnight, and then I will drain it and then sit it underneath my kitchen cabinet for overnight again. I'll go ahead and drain this. And so a sprouting jar, you don't have to have anything fancy. I made this one for my dad back years ago, and it was just a plastic jar that I got and had from Costco, and it probably had some chocolate covered something in it, and good plastic, it's not going to break. And then you can take the lid and just drill some holes in it, and you've got a pretty cheap sprouting jar. And so so that's the idea there. So after you have your seed drained, and in the second day, you will begin to notice that the seed is beginning to germinate. And you'll see it's going to pop out one end and have like a little white sprouting root coming out of each seed. And that's one way you can kind of detect and see if your germination rate is good or not, is right here in this stage. And then what you'll do is you will take a tray, and my dad, just to illustrate, my dad used some old cooking pans that my mother had, and you can pretty much use anything to sprout in. Then he even went to Walmart and picked this up. Now, one thing about this is that it's clear, and so the roots are going to get some sunlight, and that can cause some issues for some time. But generally, your crop is so short-lived that may not be a problem. But what we generally see wheatgrass being grown in are these 10 by 20 trays, and then you can also get 10 by 10 trays depending on how much you're consuming, how big your family is, who's juicing, and that type of thing, and just how much at a time you need to use, because this, I've harvested this twice so far, and so it's going to take me a few days to get through this, and by the time I'm done, I am going to have some grow back here so I can clip a second crop. Now, I've noticed that some wheat seed is not very aggressive in the regrowth of the second crop. So again, that's going to vary depending on your supplier and the variety of seed that you're using. But by the time I'm getting towards the end here, more of this is going to be a little more mature and a little bit taller. And remember, the taller it gets, the less concentration and strength you're going to have in your juice. So you want it to be fairly early and vegetative, and when it starts dog-earing a little bit on the sides, that's about when I start, is about like right here. And so, but what I do is I'll take a tray like that, and I'll show you one that I've got started here right now. Okay, so once we've got our sprouts that are beginning to look like this, and so I usually put a couple of handfuls of new potting soil, and you can use a seed starter mix, but I use an organic potting soil seed starter. And well, it doesn't have to be a seed starter, but I know that they're selling those out there. And then I just take and sprinkle the sprouts right out on top of that. And so if you've never had any gardening or farming experience, I guess this can be your opportunity to learn how to grow your very own superfood. Hands down, it is the cheapest homegrown nutrition supplement superfood that you can have. So I highly encourage people to do this. I know that in the long term, the long run, the routine can get wearing and get old, but and so you can go in spurts, starting and stopping and doing it in intervals that you would prefer to do than a sustained long-term everyday kind of thing. So it's all your choice. Okay, then I water that in and put a cover over the top of it, and then it will begin to sprout in a couple days. So there we go. So maybe a little close-up, I don't know if that helps or not, but you can see that this one has already started to come up. This is actually 2 trays. The top one has holes for drainage, and the bottom tray does not, so it can catch anything that drips. And so drainage is important for a couple of reasons, mainly for rot, but then the second one is to inhibit or reduce the mold growth. Some people struggle with having a mold problem. But what I've noticed about the mold issue, number one, is that they might be using a blotter paper instead of soil to hold the moisture. And so you can go, you'll see some people prefer to be soilless because they don't want the fuss and the mess or maybe the added cost. But I'm kind of old-fashioned. I'm a farm kid, grown up, and so I prefer doing the way things the Lord kind of designed, and that is that we have soil and that things ought to grow in soil. And I can't help but believe that there's some nutrients that are coming up in this crop grass because it is growing in fertile soil. And so what we do is we will take this and plant it, water it in, and be careful not to overwater it, and then we will cover it with another tray like this. So then you're going to have this covered for 24 to 48 hours, maybe even 72, depending on the temperature. And so once you begin to see them come up, then you're going to want to remove this and then allow fresh air to be able to access this, let the surface dry down a little bit, and that is going to help inhibit mold growth. So mold growth likes it to be dark and moist and warm, and so that will produce the mold that we want to avoid. And so the drier the surface is, the better you will be with that. And so then once you are growing and you're 2-3 days in on the project, maybe 4, you have enough growth here that you want to make sure and put this in a sunny location. This time of year where I live, it's still pretty chilly at night, so I take it out during the day and bring it in at night. Or you can find a big sunny window to put it in, or you can put it on top of your refrigerator or freezer with a grow light. There's a lot of things you can think about there. And so the next phase we're going to talk about is, well, what do we do once we're going to start harvesting this to use it? And so the way I do it is not probably the most prescribed way, but yet it's the simplest way to do it, and it works for me effectively, and so I've just kept doing it. And so it's basically just manually taking a pair of scissors and taking a little handful here and cutting it off, and then what I do is I trim it down into about 1 inch or 1.5 inch lengths. If you leave them long, they will get bound up in the blade of your blender. And the blender that I use here is the Ninja Professional, and when you buy it, it comes with the single serve smoothie cup that works really well for single serving use. And the Ninja has also very strong and sharp blades because wheatgrass is a pretty strong fiber. And then, like I say, if you don't cut it down as it goes in, you are going to have it wad up and bind up inside the blades, and it'll cause some trouble. So that's what I do, is I take a swath of about 2 inches and I leave about, and if I clip it too short, the grow back is more sluggish, it's slower. And so I usually leave it about like that, about a 1/2 inch above the edge of the tray. And then I use a 0 water filter. It's one of the best. 5 stages, a little better than some of the other models are just really filtering out flavor. So you don't want to be really tricked by that, and make sure that you got a good water filter as well. Important. So screw that down tight. Oh, one more thing to do. Don't want to forget this. And that is I put in a drizzle of olive oil. And what this does is it becomes a anti-foaming agent. And so what I've read about this is that by using this form of extraction, using the blender, the high-speed blades, that the downside is those blades create, I guess, oxygenation, which then deteriorates the juice much quicker. And plus it has a foaming problem. So that's why I put just a drizzle of olive oil in there, and it takes care of the foaming issue. But if I'm drinking it right away, the oxidation issue is not going to be significant. And so, alright, for just a moment we're going to be noisy over here. Go. The other method, of course, is to buy a juice extractor. There are two types, and I will be inserting photos of them. But one mounts here on the side of the counter with a set screw, and it has a hand crank on it, and it has a worm screw on it that presses very tightly the grass and squeezes out the juice. And so you'll have a highly concentrated small amount. But here what I've done is take about 4 ounces of water and put it in the blender, and I'm doing it this way instead. So on the other juice extracting machines, they vary in price. The one that clips on the edge, you'll see as I add them into this video, they're anywhere from $50 to $150, and then for the motorized ones, they're $100, $200, $300, all the way up to even up to $1,000 I've seen. And so I just use my hands. Some guys want to be a little more sanitary and put gloves on or whatever, but you'll see that this is quite easy to do, and just rolling the pulp around into a little ball. And then I want to show you that the color is fairly light green, and like I said, a pretty strong pulp. And so this is what you have when you use the screw mechanical extraction. You'll discover that the pulp is a darker green. So I think we're actually, by adding water and extracting the juice this way, we're actually harvesting more chlorophyll. We're getting probably more, we might even be getting more fiber, because the fiber is actually some of it passing through the screen and be right in the juice. And I think we're actually extracting more. When you look at the remaining fibers here, you will see they're lighter, paler green, so you can't help but understand that we got more chlorophyll and more good that got carried with the water into this glass. So basically, but what you're dealing with then by doing it this way is, and notice we didn't have to deal with hardly any foam at all, and that's because of the olive oil that I've added. And it's such a minute amount that you're really not tasting or having a film in your mouth either by doing that. But you have a larger volume that you gotta chug down, so that may be a problem for some. Now, I grew up on a farm, mowing grass, at home, and feeding cows, used to the smells of grasses and forage and things like that with livestock. And so I don't find this offensive at all. Some people might, but I think here's the point, is that in American culture, I think, I don't want to sound negative or condescending, but it seems as though we've gotten pretty spoiled. And if it doesn't taste good, we're not going to do it. And I think with that, at some level, we've got to get past some of that and be adult and be responsible and realize that there are some things that we need for our body that may not taste the best, but we're going to get the benefits of what it does provide to us. And so here we go. And to me, it's sweet, it's green, and not offensive whatsoever. And I think for some that it might be offensive with, I think that you can grow. You can challenge yourself and make it happen. And I remember taking supplements at one time that had a very offensive flavor to it. But after 2 or 3 weeks of forcing yourself to take this little swig of really offensive tasting supplement, that you actually grow to like it. And so I would encourage you to not let the flavor or any kind of offensiveness keep you from doing this, because the benefits you can, I'm not the nutritionist here, but you can go online and look at all the benefits that are here. You're talking about rich oxygenation of your bloodstream. You're talking about a great source of plant-based protein here. You're talking about some really great stuff. So I encourage you and to continue with it. And you can get into a regimen and a routine of constantly having trays that are in one phase or another of growth. And so wait 3 days and start a new set of sprouts, and then begin, and you will have just a constant flow of this lush green green sunshine, and great for your body. And you will feel the rush of energy, and that will come into you very, very quickly. This is amazing, and you will learn to enjoy that rush and that energy that it brings. And there are so many benefits to look forward to for your health. So I hope that you will do it. Not only just try it, but you will also work past, if you're having a little bit of offense with getting it down, that you will press yourself to do it anyway, and then in a short time it becomes less offensive, and you're going to continue with the great goodness that it will bring. And you're going to be able to do this for literally pennies on what this would cost you from a store. Absolutely pennies in comparison. So one of the best things, one of the cheapest things that you can do to revitalize your body and restore some good health, and even cancer prevention qualities are found in this, from what I've been told. So God bless you. I hope you do it, and I have helped you through some of that process. Oh, one other thing to mention in speaking of potting soils, that you do not use a potting soil that has flowers on it. This is designed for ornamental use. And then another potting soil you'll see has vegetables on it. So this is what you're looking for. And a potting soil for seed starting. And there are a lot of varieties out there these days, but you can find kinds that are, say, organic potting soil or organic garden soil, and that's what you're looking for. Okay? Take care, and we'll see you later.